Hello friends, how are you today? I am so excited to be here with you today and to share some information about the Schumann resonance, about energy, and a little inspiration to get us started today. Well, there is a fascinating image on the chart today and some very hopeful information. So I'm really excited to share that with you. Now, before we get started, I'd love for you to check out my new video that I also released today, which is about how to protect yourself and your energy field from unconscious influences and from non-physical entities and energy. And so it fits really well with talking about the Schumann resonance because we're talking about energies here that have an influence on our lives. And this video addresses a specific range of those kind of energies and how to establish and maintain your energetic sovereignty as a living human being. So anyway, I hope you take a look at that. I think it'll be really helpful. And the other thing is if you could like the video, subscribe, and please share it. If this video resonates with you, that would be wonderful. And I would really love it if you did that. And I thank you for your support. Okay, so let's take a look at today's chart. This is the current chart, so this is just not fully updated yet. Still a few hours to go for that. But there were two key things on this chart that were really interesting. The first is obviously this sword and shield, I call it, from the other day. And the second thing is the technological effect significantly changed. And I'm calling this in the background, this pattern, the technological effect. I have a playlist of videos where I've talked about it on my channel if you want more information. But see, look here. See how it presents here. Okay. Now look what happened after this image. Look what happened to it. It started showing some of those beautiful colors that are like gem or jewel colors here. It'll come through. The colors are always brightest on the most recent chart. I'm not sure why that is. I'm sorry, the most recent day. But you can see here, you get brilliant, purples, rose colors. And it has been a while since we have seen this. This effect in this technological effect. And I have to wonder why it changed and what the difference is and how this is generated. But it's obviously very periodic. See, look at that. See how periodic it is? It's very interesting. Now, I'm just noting that change because I don't know a lot of stuff about this, right? We just don't. But I feel that this energy here that's coming through it just feels divinely inspired to me on a lot of my videos from, I don't know, a few months, over recent months. When we were talking about this, I've talked about the difference in the colors on the charts. And when you start to get these really brilliant colors and beautiful expressions, it talks to a depth of the energy, in my view. And the other interesting thing about the technological effect is it started more obviously coming through down to 40 hertz, which it was not before. And I had wondered, it was not so obviously before. On this chart it is, but some of the other charts in previous days, it was not so. There weren't so many lines here. Okay, so let's take a look, and then I'm going to talk about the energy of this sword and shield here. But I want to take a look and show you something. If we look at the chart from yesterday, and then we look at the solar flare information. This is actually from 2 days ago now, July 9th, Universal Time, Greenwich Mean Time. Well, it's fascinating because we had these 3 in a row spikes, solar flares, and they were more than C class. They were above C point, C above 0.5, right? I forget the numbers now on the top of my head, the numbers that how these are measured, but it's more than halfway through the C-class territory, getting towards M-class territory. So these were potent flares, and it was so fascinating because that shield part kind of went, sort of, let's say this range in time, I'm just estimating, but the spike that went down, what I'm calling the sword part that went down to 40 hertz, occurred right after the first of the series of 3 on July 9th, Universal Time. And so I thought that was really interesting. Okay, there's another image here. I just want to point it out. Here, it looks like a trident, okay, which is like a pitchfork with 3 bars. I'm going to make it bigger so you can see them. But you see the light bars here? 1, then 2. This one extends longer. That's with the handle of the trident. And then 3, another shorter one. So these are sort of the white resonance here showing through. Now you see these lines here? These are more of a gray-blue. Okay, so the white actually is 3 that make a pitchfork image. It's kind of interesting. And we've had this type of pattern before lower down in the hertz. But I'm not going to talk to that right now, but I will address the pitchfork. Okay, but first let's go and take a look behind the scenes at the numbers really quick. The interesting thing about the frequencies which dip during this sword and shield is that right during the spike to 40 hertz, you had a rise in the white, and normally that dips, okay? And I just thought that was really interesting because how I take it is when there is this dip, when you get a light wave, is that it is a more expanded or celestial type of energy coming in to support us. And because the white resonance seems to really reflect those energies in particular, I thought it was interesting that they rose up. And the other thing that happened is that right after that spike to 40, the green rose up. And I view the green as representative of humanity in general. The yellow and the red, I kind of see this as representing our non-physical human, or the astral, the non-physical energy closest to the body. I talk about this a lot on the video I put out today called The Path of the Soul. Stop 4D entities and unconscious influences from affecting your human energy field. So that's really a lot of this yellow, and to some extent the red, which is much more denser energies, our deep shadow, deep emotions that are on the negative side, but also our passion. Okay. So these were not brought up in the same way that the green was. And I thought that was really interesting. It to me said that this is a real celestial support for humanity. Okay, now let's go to the amplitudes. So the amplitudes were strong across the board of this wave. And so what that tells me is there's a lot of power here supporting the energy. And really they've just been really quiet since then for the rest of the chart. And right after the spike to 40 hertz, you did have a little pop-up within an hour or two of all the qualities of every resonance. Now, these are not high numbers across the board. Okay, they're all pretty moderate quality numbers. The quality is, the way to think of this is the true essence of what this resonance represents, like the true essence of it. And so there was a spike in that. Okay, so again, if this is sort of a celestial or expanded support for us, then it makes sense that we get a boost in connecting with the truth of who we are, right? At all levels. So that's how I saw the numbers behind this. And then again, really, there wasn't a lot. To say about the numbers past that main image there. But I did want to point out something about this trident. There are key images of the trident throughout human history in our various cultures. And two of the ones that come up for me, which I researched this morning, was Shiva, who holds the trident, and Neptune. Okay, so these are key figures, right, in our cultural history as humans from India and then from the Greek. And it's interesting because Shiva's trident was formed by a part of the sun. It's interesting, Shiva's daughter married the sun, and the sun was too hot for the daughter, and so the sun released a portion of its energy to the earth, and that was forged into the trident. So when Shiva wields the trident, and a big part of that, from what I read this morning, was to identify and then demonic elements. Okay, so the sun, right, the trident made of the sun identifies those, and then eliminates them or raises them up, or essentially raises them up. And what I mean by that is that they shift form towards a light, or eliminates them from this reality. Okay, so the light of transparency lifts us, right? Assists in lifting us as a human collective out of the darkness. Well, it's interesting because then I was reading about Neptune's Trident, and Neptune's Trident was forged by the Cyclops, okay? And the Cyclops are the mythical creatures in Greek literature that had one eye in the center of their forehead. Well, that one eye represents our third eye as human beings, which is essentially the energy of the pineal gland. And what does that do? The pineal gland is what processes the light for us, okay? And when you can access the abilities of your pineal gland, you can see in the non-physical, or you can sense in the non-physical. Using those abilities, you can sense the layers of energy and what is there, and that assists you to assess your world. And I actually addressed a lot of that kind of information in the other video. I'll link that below, that I released today. So I thought that it was really interesting. I didn't know about these stories of the trident, which in Americana culture is represented by the pitchfork, and also in European culture. And the pitchfork is often, there's a typical American painting of a man and his wife, and they're older, and they're a couple, right? They're a couple, and they're at their farm, and the man is holding the pitchfork, okay? And it's a simple American, like American values, and all the meaning there. But the pitchfork is very prominent in that picture. And I think it's representing a similar kind of energy in that picture, right? Because the pitchfork has also been used for defense. And really, what we're talking about is defense against the lower forces, the forces of darkness that attempt to influence human beings and that attempt to misguide us, right? Or affect us in sometimes very negative ways. The other way that the pitchfork is used, is the image is of, crowds with pitchforks going after, someone who's been considered to be possessed by the darkness or who's been a perpetrator of negative acts. Anyway, so I don't get too much into that, but the general theme here is as a protective element. And so look at where that is in the chart, okay? It's touching, basically it's 8 hertz here, but it's about 7.83. That is the natural frequency of the earth. But the other thing about 8 hertz is that that's where we begin. Our human alpha brain waves are at 8 plus hertz, or 8 to 12, or so, plus or minus on both sides of that. And so this is a theme that is coming into our conscious awareness, right? Defense against the darkness. It's really manifesting into our alpha state, our waking state, okay? And you see more of that manifestation here, okay, in this highlighted energy. And just as this pitchfork and this awareness comes in here, we get the jewel tones now, especially in the lower hertz of the chart. So the sword and the shield, I wanted to address that as well. From an energetic perspective, there's a psalm that this reminds me of, and it's Psalm 23. The sword and the shield in Western culture is very representative of, spiritually, of Archangel Michael. He carries a sword and a shield, and he fights the darkness, and he slays the dragon. He comes to earth to rid the earth of the devil, okay? And with his legions. Whew. And so in Psalm 23, there's a phrase, and this is my favorite psalm. But the way that the prose goes is, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of darkness. Is it darkness or death? Though it's death. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy sword and thy staff, not sword, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Okay, but whenever I see the sword and staff of Archangel Michael, it reminds me of that phrase, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Ooh, boy, it's amazing, huh? And so we just had the new moon, okay? I don't remember. I didn't mark it where it's on this chart here. But it was, I think it was early on the 10th on this chart here. I'll have to go look it up. But we just had the new moon in the sign of Cancer. And I listened to it's Leo King. I loved his discussion about the new moon, Leo King, on YouTube, of this new moon. He said some amazing things about how this new moon is, astrologically speaking, one of the most positive that he has seen in a long time, okay? And that really resonates with me in terms of what I'm seeing on the Schumann resonance chart. This is one of the most positive and supportive charts that I've seen in a long time, especially at the new moon, where we are setting our intentions for what we want to create. That we have the protection of the divine. We have the support of the divine throughout all of our brain waves, which is really the filter that our human experiences flow through, right? Our brain is the regulator. And we have the trident, right, supporting us to bring light to that which no longer serves, and where we can slay that with the sword, where we can get it with the pitchfork and remove it, and then remove it from our reality. And we do this one-to-one with the divine, right? It's really the divine that clears it, but as human beings, we have access to that ability and energy in alignment with the highest good. and in alignment with the divinity that is within us that we call on. So this is a fantastic chart, and if you want to learn more about the energies, have a look at the next video, The Path of the Soul. I'll add a link at the very end here. Thanks so much for being here with me today. It's a joy to be here with you.